Okay, well, hi Trina. I'm Scott, and you and I are here as we always are on Mondays at this time, regardless of it's morning, noon, or evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. You were on a call an hour ago, if I understand it correctly, and in fact, every Monday, you're and it truly is an international. Wherever you happen to be in the world kind of discussion that you have. Can you tell us more about that, Trina? And I know that you've got a special video to share with people too.
Well, what a privilege, and what a privilege, Scott, that we could do something so quickly. So Scott is willing to take these things, and people sent me pictures from Zimbabwe here that we put on, and I recorded part of our conversation. And this was just at 12 o'clock noon Eastern time, our time, and now it's just a little after 2:30 our time, Eastern time. So look at we managed to do in the meantime. So thank you, Scott. And thank you, Sarah and Caroline and Marilyn Aiken from South Africa. Caroline is from Zimbabwe, and we're going to see a bunch of the pictures that she sent in this in between time so quickly to us. And Sarah is the one whose voice you are going to hear first. I have to say that the pictures are just running courtesy of Scott, so thank you very much. But they're running without significance to the captions related to the audio. The captions relate to the audio. So don't pay attention, just get the feel of this wonderful work that's being done in Africa countries in the middle, in Kenya. And no, we won't have Kenya pictures today. We're just having Zimbabwe pictures today in 3 different places. One is an urban agriculture place. One is a little outside of the area that's more like rural crops. And the third set is mushroom farming. I'm eager to do something special with mushrooms, and maybe we have some of these people on our programs besides just not me talking. So, Scott, I think you could roll it for them to understand that the pictures do not correspond with the words. They're just atmosphere.
You do in your own. It's a very common practice in Africa. Yeah.
And also the whole thing of intercropping. You don't grow things in monoculture in rows that different plants benefit from one another.
And I see my mother tries very much to make use of the fast rains to control pests and the diseases and to control pollination. Like sometimes when these other people are doing the GMOs, it can easily affect your organic seeds. So what she does, she tries very much to make use of the fast rains, like she's the first person to plant. By the time these others are planting, has gotten to a higher level, and it helps in controlling the pests. And these are the pollination from other seeds that are not organic.
That's really good. Does she also use ashes to store when she's storing her food?
Yeah, we have a small store where she stores her food. Yes.
Using ash.
I've not seen her
Wood ash, not coal ash.
Yeah, light ash. We have a small kitchen, and I see her hanging the seeds under the fire. So that smoke, I think it's a protection. The smoke from the fire is able to protect the seeds until the next planting season.
Plants that are called weeds. Many so-called weeds are very nutritious. They are indigenous and they have a bad name and they need to be reclaimed. There's someone that I know who's written a number of books about reclaiming weeds as food.
When you're taking the amarantha leaves, you can also put some little seeds of it to those vegetables, but again, you should just steam them, not cook them completely. Because if you cook them completely, they lose its value. But you steam them with just little salt. You should not even fry it. and then it becomes no more nutritious when it has the seeds and the leaves, and it's steamed, not fried or cooked completely. And some people here use it, they mix the seeds with the millets, and they make forage for the kids.
Okay. I've got quite a lot of amaranthus seeds at the moment, but I'm allowing them to have babies so that I have more next year.
I think it's wonderful to hear those different accents. The first one was Sarah, and she talked about her mother. And there's no pictures of that now. By next week, perhaps we'll have pictures of Sarah and her mother. And just to think of the technology that allows us to talk across the world like this and to so quickly put something together to share with the rest of us. This is a privilege that the group I belong to also. This is the Grail International Women's Movement. That's here in the United States and a number of other countries, including Uganda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and South Africa. So it's a privilege for me to belong to such a movement. And so I want to say a bit more about some of that content of the recording. What was being talked about a bit about her mother planting corn. By the way, you can't, it's illegal in Zimbabwe and in Kenya to save seeds. And you have to have a license to plant corn, which they call maize, and something called green gram, which they sent a picture of. It looks like little green peas, but I don't know what that is. And I'm wondering if those are genetically engineered, because I prefer to call things genetically engineered, because that implies that human beings in a laboratory have fooled around with the genetics. GMOs can be too likely thought about as just the natural way of things, that the evolution of things. That's not the case here. This is the case where they make the GMOs and you're not allowed to even save them, and you can't save them properly. They don't grow right. So that her mother plants the corn before anybody else has a chance, so that when pollen comes into corn and all the receptacles of all the hairs of the corn are sticking out, ready for the pollen to come and land on them, she is already past the stage to where it can accept the others. What a clever, clever thing. And we have so much to learn from more indigenous peasant people. Now, one of the problems to bring up here is that even though this movement of making things more natural has tried to come back into Africa, there's been so much effort, including the Gates Foundation and others, to push genetically engineered seed as more efficient, that it has caught on and has seduced a lot of the people. And another way is that the manure and making all compost beautiful together, that they're trying to use, and that Sarah and Caroline are trying to use, and Marilyn are trying to use over there, and that I use here, to mix all these things together and make a beautiful compost, which is a sufficient fertilizer and helps the soil stay alive and receive water when it finally rains, and be able to sequester carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not the enemy of us. Carbon dioxide is a food for the plant that the plant then gives off and gives us oxygen. What a beautiful, beautiful cycle of giving and receiving that goes on. So we are sort of twisted in our thinking of what's an enemy and what is not an enemy. So this is an important piece to know, that what her mother does. I consider the two of them real heroes in this whole effort. And that we're talking about people in a desert situation where there's a desperate need for food. And when I say desert, I don't mean quite desert, but it's very dry. And the ground stays much more moist if it has the natural quality. It's like 14 times more able to absorb rain when it comes, and it doesn't run off like fertilizer crops. And what they're finding, though, is that when the women get taught about making compost using their chicken and their goats and their cow manure, it's more work to make it into compost, to let it wait for 8 months or so till it composts properly. And it's much quicker to use fertilizer. And that's the seducing thing that was used all over India. That was the failure, really, of the Green Revolution, which the publicity has said is a real success. It has not been a success. There's been over 200,000 farmers who committed suicide because of the so-called Green Revolution, because they were usually given genetically engineered seeds and given fertilizer in the beginning. And of course, the first year is fabulous. Looks much more efficient. The crop is bigger and all that. But this quickly goes away, and then the damage is done to the soil and the lives of the people, who then are moved around from where they lived before, and their whole cycle of life has changed. And that's what's happening in Africa, because the women say, oh, I have to feed my family quickly. So they use fertilizer, which looks like it's wonderful. And of course, it costs money. It also pollutes the soil. It pollutes the water nearby with the runoffs. So this genetic engineering practice throughout Africa is something I hope to focus more about this year as I seek for what I'm doing with these 15 minutes, because I've been into the genetic engineering of food problem since 1996, actually. And we've been just awful with our leadership with this in this country. So I'm so ashamed of that, because we've tried to get it then spread around the world. And we have so much influence in the world that people tend to think that what comes out of the United States is better. And often their ways that they had before are better. So I thank you very much for listening and paying attention to this subject, which I think is extremely important. The food we eat, how we make it, what to do, and how to preserve it. And the growing of mushrooms, I hope we have a whole feature on that sometime. And it's a wonderful project they're doing, and I want to learn more. Okay, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much, and have a happy, happy New Year. May the time ahead be a surprising time of hope, and not just of worry and fear. Amen.